Hey guys, happy Wednesday and welcome back to We're Fucked Until We're Not, a podcast talking about all things climate change for 15 minutes or less. Environmental education has been a little too kumbaya lately, and while I love optimism, I think that there's just been a bit too much flowery talk lately, and we need to be more straight up about the problems and solutions with climate change, and that's exactly what I'm here for. I'm your host, Mehul, and I'll be doing this every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern. Before we go ahead, feel free to give us a follow on any of our social media channels. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. But if you aren't really active on social media and still want to reach out, then definitely shoot us an email. I'll make sure to put all of the links in the description below. Now let's get into it. This week, we'll be talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and just how unsustainable they really are. For those of you that don't know, Bitcoin is known as a decentralized cryptocurrency located away from any one bank or government. It's meant to be a currency by the people, for the people. It's gained a lot of media attention recently, as it's made a lot of people rich. In just over a decade, the price of one Bitcoin went from 10 US cents to over 50,000 US dollars. And the way it gets its value is from scarcity. There's only 21 million Bitcoins out there, so over time their value is supposed to appreciate. And back in the day, it was mainly used for transactions that people didn't want to be traced, because there was really no way to trace it. Even now, quite a few illegal transactions are done with this kind of cryptocurrency because it gives people the privacy that they want. As its value has gone up though, people are starting to buy and hold it as kind of like an investment tool, and it's gotten even more media attention because of that, so it's not really something that's in the shadows as it used to be. You can't go 10 minutes on social media without seeing something about it. It's one of the most talked about things online right now. Even big names in technology like Elon Musk or the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, are very big proponents of the currency. They like that it's not tied to any bank or country, and a lot of people are liking this too. Even big companies like Tesla, Starbucks, Microsoft, and PayPal are beginning to accept Bitcoin because they see it has some value going forward. Many people and economic analysts think that it'll be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in the future. Now, this isn't an ad for cryptocurrency or anything. I'm not one of those Instagram people saying, oh, go buy Bitcoin right now. Go buy Bitcoin. There's actually a lot about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in particular that are really scary when it comes to our environment. So the way that Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies work is that they're released through a system of what's called mining. Basically, a computer has to solve increasingly complex math problems in order for these Bitcoins to be released. These problems get more complex as more Bitcoins are released. So back in the day, a regular computer was able to solve these math problems and get them. And remember, there's only 21 million Bitcoins out there. So now, over 18 million of them have already been mined. So the problems that are solved when mining them now are so complex that they need a lot of computing power. So to do that, people usually have multiple or more advanced computers, but those computers need to be powered by something, right? They need to be ran and cooled, and that uses a lot of energy, most of which isn't renewable. And this does use a horrible amount of energy, and I'll talk about that in just a second. While we're on the topic of sponsorships, now that it's March, I'll be donating 20% of all proceeds this month to an organization called Community Got Us. They're based in California and they're looking to help homeless people in San Jose. Back to Bitcoin though. Last year, the currency had a carbon footprint almost the same as the country of New Zealand, or about 37 megatons of carbon dioxide. And that's all tied to the energy use from the mining and transactions of Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin alone needed 78 terawatts of electricity, or the amount of power used by the entire country of Chile. That's 0.5% of the world's electricity demand. The good thing is there's actually a solution for mining. You see, moving towards more sustainable forms of electricity can make mining a lot more environmentally friendly, and with the cost of energy going up, this can help miners maximize how much money they make off of Bitcoin without compromising the environment. In my episode about Texas and solar power, I mentioned that solar power is now the cheapest source of power in history. Making your Bitcoin mining centers go solar won't only save on emissions, but also save miners money, so it's a win-win. The problem is really going to be when Bitcoin starts getting more mainstream use. Right now, it's still in its infancy, where it's not really being used that much as currency. Most people that have Bitcoin just use it as an investment tool and not as much to spend it. But as its value increases and more big companies start to use it, more people will eventually start using it to make everyday transactions. But the transactions themselves aren't sustainable and are arguably worse than mining. Anyone that's used a debit card, a credit card, or some form of online banking knows that Bitcoin and other kinds of cryptocurrency aren't the first kinds of digital transactions we've all made. But the difference between the two is incredible. One Bitcoin transaction is about 740 kilowatt hours of power. 100,000 Visa transactions are only 150 kilowatt hours of power. That's only been getting worse over time because the network has been growing. And a lot of people wonder where this use of power comes from, and that's because when transactions are made, the entire blockchain network needs to be updated. So as it gets used more, this footprint will only increase further and further. Now, while people have their opinions about the currency being decentralized is a good thing for economic reasons, it's a terrible thing for the environment. Because it's so decentralized, nobody can make Bitcoin sustainability standards or anything because it doesn't really belong to any one centralized group of people. Even the creator of Bitcoin itself is a mystery. His name is supposedly Satoshi Nakamoto, but that's believed to be an alias, so it's not like there's a creator that can mandate Bitcoin sustainability standards. Even the phrase Bitcoin sustainability standards sounds like a joke, especially to people that are super into cryptocurrency or computer science. So even though the demand and use of cryptocurrency like Bitcoin is going to grow, this doesn't mean that cryptocurrency as a whole is unsustainable. The second biggest cryptocurrency on the market is called Ethereum, and it's making big leaps in their technology to make mining and transactions a lot more sustainable. Bitcoin and a lot of cryptocurrency mining right now has what's called a proof of work system, which is a small transaction fee used for validating the blockchain. But those transactions aren't sustainable because one, miners need a lot of computing power, and two, we already know how environmentally taxing each transaction really is. So what Ethereum's doing is upgrading to what they're calling Ethereum 2.0, and they're doing what's called a proof of stake, which is where instead of people doing a proof of work system, they're having people validate the blockchain by quote unquote staking it. So instead of solving puzzles or math problems, the way that it works is that the people that hold larger quantities of Ether will be selected to be validators themselves. There's a lot of technical stuff to it that I won't really go into right now because this is a sustainability podcast, not a cryptocurrency podcast. But long story short, it's much more sustainable than Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin transactions. Now, this sounds like a rich get richer scheme, but it's still better than the alternative considering the environmental costs associated with traditional Bitcoin mining and transactions. This holds even more true as analysts and big names like Mark Cuban, for example, talk about how Ethereum has more applications than Bitcoin. And this goes for Ethereum both as a currency and as a network. So if Ethereum grows and can surpass Bitcoin as the number one cryptocurrency, the cryptocurrency as a whole becomes a lot more sustainable. The best part is that the standard can actually be controlled because there's founders that we know of. It was founded by a guy named Vitalik Buterin and a lot of other co-founders, but the point is that it's a lot less hidden in the shadows than Bitcoin and has more potential for sustainability. In fact, Vitalik actually cited environmental sustainability as a reason to upgrade to that Ethereum 2.0. It'll be really interesting to see what happens in the future with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and cryptocurrency as a whole. I know so many people in so many different kinds of fields have an opinion on it, and I'm really interested in seeing what people have to say about it. So if you want any more resources, information, have some feedback, or you've fallen in love with the sound of my voice, definitely reach out on social media or send an email, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday.